Hello, hello. Welcome to the Playful Life. I am your host, Crystal, the Playful Trainer. And as always, we're very happy to be here on Thursday morning. Today, we were spared the blizzard. The last two Thursdays
Hallelujah.
we had snowstorms. So it's very, very nice. It's cold, but it's beautiful. The sun is shining, and I don't mind at all because I didn't have to trudge through snow, put my boots on, and everything to get here. So very happy about that. As always, thanks to Ron Harlow Media for hosting us here on The Playful Life. And we are brought to you by The Playful Journal, your 12-week guide to a more playful life, and also the Playful Program. If you're looking for a way to get healthier, you've had enough of your lifestyle, you're just not happy, not where you want to be in your fitness goals or your health goals, and all of that, I can help you definitely with the Playful Program. So let's get into it. My guest today is the lovely and beautiful Patti Shaffner.
You are very kind.
Truly, truly, I am so honored that you are here. I've known Patti a very long time. She was my dental hygienist when I was a kid, and obviously had a very big impact on me wanting to take care of my teeth because people compliment me on my teeth a lot. I'm like, oh, that's Patti.
Gosh, which office was I working for at that time?
Was it Dr. Egley?
It probably
I think
was.
so.
Dr. Egley over in Highland. Yeah. He's a great guy to work for, really. My first job out of hygiene school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
He's great.
Yeah. I was very young and I don't exactly remember everything that happened, but I do remember you being very soothing and humming or singing along with the music that was on, playing on the radio. And my dad remembers that also. When I did the vagina monologues with you, he was like, I think that's the singing hygienist.
It's funny because that did kind of become my moniker for a long time was,
Really?
the singing hygienist. Oh, I remember her. She sang to me. Well, and then, you saw the post that one of the gals that used to work for Dr. Pulver over in Highland,
Yes. Yeah, Jamie.
saw, yeah, Jamie. Hi, Jamie.
She's over at Dr. Tori's, who Dr. Tori is a sponsor here at Ron Harlow Media, so we're happy
Cool,
about that.
cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
what a cool thing to be known for.
I know. If you're going to be a dental hygienist, you want something that makes you stand out from the rest of the
Hmm.
crowd. I mean, it's nice to be gentle, it's nice to be soothing and calming, it's nice to be efficient and good at what you do. But it's really excellent to have something that you can tag on there and that will say, "Oh yeah, I know who that was."
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And we'll get into this a little bit later in the podcast, but how that's kind of come full circle. I think you doing the music and the singing and helping people in that dental chair maybe has transformed into you doing some sound immersion therapy and stuff for people and
All kinds of
having
things
that
have come out of that.
nurturing
Hmm. Yeah,
spirit.
because
Yeah.
I got to have a relationship with my patients that became much more than just a clinician and a patient. And you know what
Yeah.
that's like.
Yes.
To
Very
have
much so.
that relationship that goes beyond just the perfunctory,
Yeah. Yes.
right?
Yes. So, Patty, tell me something playful that you've been doing. Let's
Well,
start there.
we did. Let's start there. So, as you probably saw, I'm also an artist, and I'm a visual artist. And I have a friend who is a graphite artist, does some really amazing, detailed work. And I looked at it the first time and said, "How did you get all those lines in there?" And he said, "You know, people generally don't have the patience to actually do this. So we decided to do a fun thing. We decided to do a collaborative drawing. So on the first piece of paper, I did just a drawing trying to emulate what he does, which I don't have anywhere near the graphite skills that he does. And then he takes the drawing and he draws into that.
Oh.
And then I am completing it at this point. And then he said I didn't have to give it back to him, but I think I'm going to anyway, and
Nice.
really say, "I'm sorry, but you have to add more to this." But it's a fun kind of exchange
Yeah.
to see what comes out of my initial idea to where his idea is to where my idea is now. And I've done that kind of thing with my grandkids before, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, cool.
I mean, you can do it, make it very simple, or you can make it complex.
Yeah.
We'd usually sit and I'd draw something, and then they'd draw and
Mm-hmm.
add to it, and back and forth. But it's fun. It's
Yeah.
no mistake, which
Yes.
a lot of the things that I do are about no mistake.
Yes, that's right. Well, that's kind of all what the playful life is about, right? Just getting out there and doing something creative or different and saying, you know what, doesn't have to be perfect,
Right?
just has to be me.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Perfection is something that's highly overrated. in,
I'm learning
in
that one very slowly, but yeah.
it's been my experience, and I got a few years on
Mhm.
you.
Well, I'm trying to learn from the best here.
I'll take
So,
that.
I know that you do Zentangle,
Yes.
and my friend Angie, I think maybe studied with you. She does
Yes.
that now as well, and so that's very interesting to me. Would you mind maybe talking a little bit about that Zentangle if somebody sees you that you do that? I know I put that on
Right.
there that you do that. What is that exactly?
Okay, so Zentangle, and it's all one word, Zentangle, because I've had people say Zentango, or what are you doing?
Sounds like a
And
drink.
it does. Ooh, that's probably something that's really calming.
Probably has
Wonder what
rum in
it's
it.
good. I was gonna say, oh, rum or tequila, maybe tequila. So it was developed by, and I'll try not to go into too detailed of an explanation here, but it was developed by a woman who was or is a calligrapher, and she's also a botanical illustrator, and her husband, who at one point in time he spent a good deal of time studying meditation. And the story is that she was working on an illuminated letter. Do you know what those are? Like at
Mm-mm.
the beginning of the big Bibles that have the big letter that's in gold and it's very flourished. It's got all these wonderful designs on it.
Yes.
She was working on one of those very intensely. He said, "I'm going for a walk." He came back a couple hours later to find her in exactly the same position and said, "Have you taken a break?" And she said, "No, why?" And he said, "Because I've been gone for so long." And she said, "Well, when I'm in this, I just am focused on the next line." And he said, "Could you tell me more about your process?"
Hmm.
And she talked about how it just takes her into a place of focus, where literally the next line is the only thing she's thinking about. She's not thinking about the end product. She's just thinking about the next line. He said, "This sounds a great deal like the kind of meditation practices that I've learned. How can we combine these two?"
Oh.
So what they did was they deconstructed patterns and then showed you how to take these deconstructed patterns, put them back together, so you don't have to be an artist or perceive of yourself as an artist to be able to create this. It's done on a small piece. It's like
Oh,
3.5 by 3.5 inches
really?
square.
Okay.
You need a pen, and we usually use an archival pen, so you don't have to worry about it fading down the road,
Hmm.
unless you want it to. A pencil, and then either your finger or a little. They call them tortillons. I love saying that word. It's a little paper blender,
Oh,
and that's all you need. So it's the kind of thing that you could take with you anywhere to
that's
do.
neat.
You can do one in as quick as 15 or 20 minutes sitting in a waiting room somewhere, or, I really need something to focus my mind on
Mm.
something other than what I'm thinking about right now, and you can do these patterns. And because it's a no mistake zone, because it's not about the end product, you can look at it from any angle, see it, and appreciate it for what it is.
Oh.
I'm always fascinated because everybody gets the same instructions in a class, and at the end of the class, everybody's interpretation is a little bit different. In fact, I'm going to be doing a class for St. Mary's over in Hobart
Oh,
toward the end of March.
okay.
I'm going to have like 24, 26 students to teach them a way to be creative, expressive, no mistakes, and come
Yes.
away from it going, "Hey, you know what? I can do something more than a stick figure."
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And I guess I didn't realize that it was like meditation.
Yes.
I knew the art component of it. I also didn't know that they were such a small scale.
Yeah.
I've been a big colorer my whole
Oh,
life, so I love to color. I love the adult coloring books. I get the kids coloring books. Around the holidays, I do like the little bunnies and stuff for Easter. And I just love stuff like that. And that to me is very meditative. I just put on some soothing music and do some coloring, but I think maybe the Zentangle would be cool for me to dabble in
It is
because
because I think it stretches you outside of your comfort zone, for one thing. I have had the opportunity, well, my youngest student was 8, my oldest student was 93.
oh
I taught at the Lake County Jail for a while for a special mental health program where
oh
they were wanting to take inmates who had issues that made them either danger to themselves or to others and needed something to focus them. So they brought in meditation, yoga, and then they brought in Zentangle. And it was a fascinating
yeah
experience to work with them and to see the kinds of ways that people um, expressed their situation
yeah
really in the art, at least in my interpretation.
mm-hmm.
And the psychologist sort of agreed with me.
Yeah,
So,
that's
and then I've
amazing.
worked with the PACT group over in Valparaiso.
Okay.
It's a recovery
Oh,
program. Taught there a few times. In fact, the first time I taught for them was probably about 3, maybe 4 years ago now, and I had one woman who you tell people you want a very light touch with these pens because if you don't, you're going to end up pushing the nib into the
mm,
pen and you're going to end up with black fingers. So, I reiterate that throughout the class. And at one point she goes, "Huh, you weren't kidding." And she holds up her hand and her hand is black. So I've taken to having extra pens for people who have a tendency to have a heavier hand. But during the class, I started talking about my sons. And she looks up at me and she says, "You look pretty good for 70." And I went, "Wow, that's quite an assumption." But I couldn't really argue with her because I was closer to it than not. So all of the unexpected things that
she
came out
said,
of
well,
my.
that's probably because I'm not 70.
That's probably because I'm not 70. Right, exactly. Yeah, so that was. It was a takeaway from that class. So
That's
yeah, I've
funny.
enjoyed teaching it, and and Angie that you
Yeah.
spoke of, she did take a class with me, and then went on to become certified. You become certified as a teacher through the Rick and Maria in Rhode Island, and then you have all of the skills, and you represent the Zentangle mindset, which is breathe, focus, appreciate, slow down.
Mm,
So it does become much of a
all of those
meditative
things. That's
process.
really, really cool. I especially like it. I've talked about this with other guests on the show, how I feel very overwhelmed when I try to meditate. And I
Yeah,
feel I'm a very busy person. I go, go, go all the time.
I know.
So to slow down, to come and sit in a space and be quiet and do nothing is almost uncomfortable for me. So I think I don't like to meditate a lot of times because I don't like to go to that uncomfortable place. But maybe something like Zentangle would be more up my alley because it's actually active in some way, active and passive.
Moving meditation, and in fact there are a number of moving meditation forms that you can do. There's a walking form that you can do that was introduced by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk who has become very widely known around the globe. And the drawing, singing is meditation.
Oh,
Music definitely is meditation.
okay. Well, I have that, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. So, and it depends on how you approach it, I think.
Hmm.
And if you allow yourself to go into that zone of, wow, how much time has actually passed?
Right.
You're now in the flow,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And you know about flow. You know
Yeah.
about how you can flow through the activities that you're
Hmm.
involved in, and you do lose sense of time, and you do lose a sense of space. You are simply focused on what you're doing,
Hmm.
and it takes you out of this stress. Your entire body
Hmm.
relaxes,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Something physiological definitely happens. Hmm.
absolutely.
Awesome. And to tell people also, you are a musician,
I am.
and I'm gonna try and cue up at some point maybe a song here. But I love following your music career, and you're inspiring to me as a female singer songwriter. And is there anything you'd like to share maybe about that journey and how that's sort of tied into all the rest of the things that you're doing now in your life and how
Actually, yeah,
music's played a part in
because
that?
it does come together in an interesting way. I've been singing since I was probably 3, or maybe even before. I just don't remember that. And I don't know that I ever had an idea that I was going to have a career in music. And what's a career in music? Do you have to like have national, regional, local recognition?
Hmm.
If that's the case, yeah, I guess I've got that. So, or does it have to be international? I don't know. I don't think
Yeah.
so. I
What
think
a
it's
great
more
point.
about,
I
yeah.
think, yeah, just being able to do what you love and making some
And
money at
and
it and
making, yeah,
kind of having an
the
exchange of
first time
energy.
they paid me to make music, I was like, oh my God, money for what I love to do? How about that? Um,
What a great feeling.
yeah, it was. And but I started playing I sang in choirs when I was in school, and I learned to play the guitar. Not particularly well, but I did learn to accompany myself. And then I went to my first open mic experience in Crown Point at a place that used to be called the Hideaway.
Oh,
Um, it's a bowling alley now, or there's still a bowling alley over
okay.
there. Excuse me. And I was terrified. I had to sit down. My hands shook, my knees shook, my voice shook, and I made it through.
Hmm.
Nobody laughed at me. Nobody booed me off the stage. I stumbled about. And I don't know, I kind of liked it was exhilarating and I liked it. So I went back and I did it more. Eventually, I ended up playing at an open mic at the Court Restaurant in Valparaiso, Court Slammer Saloon. People knew it by different things. We always called it the Court. And they started doing a contest
Oh,
where you could, if you came in on a Tuesday night for the open mic, and they liked what you did. People applauded for you the most, and you won the night, and you got to come and play on a Monday night, which generally they didn't have any music on Mondays.
oh,
You could come and do like a 2 hour set. You wouldn't get
wow.
paid, but
Yeah.
you'd have this opportunity to actually come up with 2 sets of music
Hmm.
and do it. So I won, and I got to do my first gig, and I was trying so hard to be like all of the rest of the singer-songwriters that were up there, and so I was trying to talk, but I didn't know what to say. Finally, a guy sitting in a booth across from where the stage was said, "Just sing." Okay, that I can do. And it sort of launched my career to become a professional, where you do it as an amateur, and to be an amateur means to do it from your heart,
Mm,
right? It's from le corps, it's from that part of you that
yeah.
just has to, right?
Yeah.
And you become a professional when they start paying you
Right.
for it.
Yes.
So I became a professional then when I was about 31.
Okay,
And yeah,
cool.
I mean, I'd been doing it, but
Yeah.
that was when I first launched into it
Neat.
and became a singer songwriter. But from that, eventually I ended up. I know you all know who Bobby McFerrin is, and if you're going, I don't know who Bobby McFerrin is, you just go, "Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry, be happy." So everybody knows "Don't Worry, Be Happy," and that was Bobby McFerrin's song.
Yes.
So I had an opportunity to go and take a workshop from Bobby at the Omega Center in
Wow.
Rochester, New York. It was a
How
6 day
cool.
workshop, and it was all on spontaneous song. In my singing career, I've done theater and I've done
Hmm.
singer songwriter. I don't do country, and that's one of my songs, but I do. And blues and jazz, and I love singing jazz, so I was learning how to
Hmm.
do scat singing. So that's another thing
Mm.
about Bobby McFerrin that was fascinating
Yes.
to me because he has such an amazing skill with scat, which is, for those of you who don't know what scat is the little syllables that come together, like zoo dap de do be de do de da do ba do de. So that sort of thing. So I did this workshop with Bobby, and it was all about spontaneous song. There were supposed to have been 80 people there. There was 160.
Oh, wow.
And Bobby was like, okay, now what am I going to do with all of these people? Because he only brought 3 people to help him
Oh,
out.
jeez.
And it was all about creating music in the moment. So whatever happens, happens, and when it's gone, it's gone. And so it's circle singing. It's really quite ancient. It's not like Bobby suddenly discovered something that was new. He just took old concepts of people singing together and put it into this format that people could use. From there, I went on to study with Rhiannon, who was one of his. Bobby had something called Voicestra. It was a 10-person vocal orchestra.
Oh, cool.
I know, it was really cool. And so Rhiannon was one of his singers, and I went on to do master class for a year with Rhiannon. In fact, I went to Hawaii first to do a class with Rhiannon and learned how to do circle singing, brought circle singing back to the region with me, and started doing circle singing at the Hobart Unitarian Church. And we actually went on to do a fundraiser using circle singing, improv singing, and the dancers from the South, oh my God, I'm going to forget, South Shore Dance Alliance, Larry Brewer, right?
Sure.
So we combined it as a fundraiser both for the dance school and the Aquatorium in Miller, where we brought circle singers in. The dancers danced what we were singing.
Oh, wow. How cool.
So it was all improvisational. And it's
Yeah.
another one of those places where you can make a choice, go, oh, well, this choice isn't working for me. I'm going to make a different choice. So it's a no mistake zone. And I had an opportunity to work with the Crown Point Choir kids for a few years. Delighted to be able to share this with them because it's about community as well as about singing.
Yes. What a valuable skill, too, to transcend into all other areas of life.
Yeah.
Not only art, but just collaborating on projects and
Absolutely.
people and community and society.
Absolutely.
All of those things.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, it's another one of those no mistake parts of my journey, and I love being able to share that with people.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
So you get me talking, and
this is why you're here. You're a good guest. All right, Patty. Well, we're going to take a quick break right now and just hear from our sponsors a little bit. And then when we come back, I'd love to get into talking about now what you've sort of grown into with your craniosacral therapy and sound immersion and what you and your husband Dave were doing with massage and all those wonderful things.
Excellent.
So,
Let's do
here
that.
we go.
Dr. Tori's Dental Shop in Cherville is a dentist to the stars. Her wealth of knowledge in the area of pain management, plus her ability to communicate the process, makes you feel like a star. The practice is growing for all the right reasons. Call and set up an appointment before her client book is full. Call 219-322-4036 and tell them you heard about it right here on Ron Harlow Media. Dr. Tori's Dental Shop is located at 130 East Joliet Street in Cherville at 219-322-4036. Call and feel better about every dental visit you ever have again.
Spend the holidays with us in downtown Hammond, Indiana. You'll have a fun and festive time while supporting small and local businesses. Enjoy shopping, dining, brewery, the arts, and events. Like and visit the Downtown Hammond Council on Facebook for a listing of where to go and what to do. Call Karen at 219-512-4298 between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Hammond is happening.
Looking for a friend who knows how to be a good listener? Humane Indiana in Munster has four-legged friends waiting to meet you. Open daily at 11 a.m., Humane Indiana provides many animal services from rescue to daily care. They provide on-site education while managing a wildlife preserve. At the main facility located at 421 45th Street, the staff awaits your visit. Ron Harlow Media would like to thank Director Brian Fitzpatrick and Board Vice President Scott Filler from Apex Construction and Remodeling for their support. Visit Humane Indiana and leave with a new member of the family. To find find out more, visit the Humane Indiana website or dial 219-922-3811.
We are taking the hassle out of holiday shopping at It's Just Serendipity. Gifts for everyone on your shopping list for every budget. We carry everything vintage and antique, handcrafted, upcycled, and repurposed goods by local artists, yummies prepared by local vendors such as honey, toffee, and biscotti. Carry decor, memorabilia, and custom gift baskets. Shop small with us at 5630 Holman Avenue in downtown Hammond, Indiana. Like It's Just Serendipity on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, or visit our website, itsjustserendipity.com.
Experience Broadway in Northwest Indiana. Established as the top provider of entertainment, Theater at the Center in Munster brings you the best in live theater, music, and comedy without city prices and parking hassle. With its elegant setting and superb talent, Theater at the Center in the Round makes each production must-see. 5-star dining is optional for select shows in each of the Thursday night performances. For show dates, times, and prices, visit theateratthecenter.com or call 219-836-3255. Ask about becoming a subscriber. Discounted tickets and priority seating are just a few of the benefits you'll receive. Call 219-836-3255. Theater at the Center. You'll leave impressed. Now listen to Harlow tell you about what's on stage right now.
All right, we're back, and you just heard from our sponsors, and one of those was Theater at the Center in Munster. And right now they have a John Denver tribute show going on, Almost Heaven. And I think I mean, they always have such great shows there, so I'm excited to hopefully catch that. So that is running now, I think, until March. So be sure to check them out, theateratthecenter.com. They also have a Family Fine Arts Festival going on this Sunday from, I think, 10 a.m. until 3. I will be there just helping out, and I'll be there as Mrs. South Shore, so representing the Mrs. Indiana pageant as my local title holder. And it's awesome because you can bring the kids, you can bring the family. There's usually a play going on. They give backstage tours, and you can go down. If you've never been at the theater, there is a large area for lots of classrooms and things. And that was actually where my theater career started.
Did it
where my art theater
really?
career started. My friend Vita and I, it was actually like the day or the week after my first dance recital. My mom had signed me up for a theater class there. And I remember meeting my best friend Vita. We're still really, really good friends. Our moms were friends in high school. And, they collectively had no idea that we're going to be in this class. So they show up and they're like, oh my goodness, and they're like, you're our daughters and you're the same age. And so we did this class together. And then we got to perform on that stage. We were at 3, 4. I mean, it was crazy, right?
Oh, that had to have been like the most amazing and thrilling
Yes,
experience.
yes, that was where like the
Oh, my
theater
God.
bug bit me, right?
Yeah, that it would bite hard on that stage.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, and if you haven't been in that building and seen the stage, it's like an in the round sort of experience. And I've seen some really amazing shows there. And they used to have a resident community theater, and then they ended up moving to a different space.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been some wonderful shows there. They have a wonderful art gallery with some amazing
yes.
displays in there.
Even if you don't get inside the gallery, usually just in the space outside the box office.
Oh, yeah.
There's always an installation of artists.
That's
Some of them
right.
even local. So go ahead, check it
And
out.
a banquet room,
Yeah, the food is always amazing. If you've never been to a wedding there or a party.
Brunch, do they still have the brunches?
They do. They have Sunday
Does
brunch.
Was still play for the brunches?
I think Was still plays. Yes, I'll
Was
see him there. Yeah.
He was my piano player when I had Uptown Trio.
Oh,
Yeah, we
he's
worked together for a
amazing.
few years, and oh God, probably more than a few, but
Yeah.
that part of my mind, some things just aren't worth remembering.
Aw. What a homage though to so many awesome musicians that we have in Northwest Indiana.
It's the amount of talent in this area for both theater and art and well, not both, all
Yes.
theater, art,
Visual
music,
arts, yeah,
visual
music,
arts. We are very rich.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
when I've gone other places and tell people how many community theaters we have in Northwest Indiana, they are shocked. I said, it's like you can't throw a shoe without hitting
Right.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, one in every town practically. And I say this all the time, but I don't honestly know of any other place in the country, in the world, where you can live so close to such a huge metropolitan area, city, Chicago, and live so cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is a gem, guys. For those of you who don't live here and are listening across the nation, move to Northwest Indiana. That's where it's
And
at.
we are, from my house to Lake Michigan is about a 4 or 5 minute walk.
Yes.
One of the largest sources of fresh water in the world. And this beautiful national park now, we got proclaimed a park last year.
Wow, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
We're not just the National Lakeshore anymore. We're now a
Okay.
national park.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So I can walk to the lakefront, or I can walk into the national park there at West Beach anytime I want, easily.
Wow.
Yeah,
Incredible. Yeah, it is such an interesting place where we live.
it is.
So I would love to talk about what you do now. Very interesting, sort of what sparked me to go, okay, Patti, she's awesome. She's a musician. She's an artist. She's all these things, a singing hygienist. But I think you would be a great fit for the podcast because of the healing arts that you do now and how focused you are on health, well-being, all those things. So one of the buzzwords that I had to look up and do a little research on was craniosacral therapy. Yes. So I have some printouts and questions and stuff, but why don't you give me the
Okay.
rundown
So,
on that?
first, I'll give you a little backstory. I had never heard of craniosacral therapy. I was working as a dental hygienist. I got rear-ended, literally, trying to turn into the office parking lot. And I was single parent, uninsured at the time, and they wanted me to have x-rays and PT, and I'm like, I can't afford this. I thought, I can't take the time off work.
Yeah.
I can't. But I had dated a fellow who was a PT, Charlie Wolf from Michigan City, and I called him up and I thought, oh, he's a PT. I'll call him and say, what can I do? He said, come on in. And he got me on the table. Now, my neck hurt if I was sitting or standing all the time. If I was laying down, it didn't hurt. And so he just got me on the table, and he was doing these things where all he was doing was sort of touching my head and my shoulders, and I thought he's doing some kind of an eval of my muscles. I didn't know what he was doing, and I'm laying there for a long time, probably 30, 40 minutes. And finally he says, sit up. And I said, but Charlie, you didn't do anything. He said, just sit up and tell me how you feel. And I sat up and my neck wasn't hurting. And I said, okay, what the hell did you just do? And he said, it's called craniosacral therapy, and they're encouraging PTs to learn how to do this.
Wow.
And he said, so I just figured you'd be an excellent opportunity for me to practice the skills that I just learned at this workshop. And if it works, that's great. So I then sought out a craniosacral therapist. There was nobody in the area, and went to see a woman in Chicago. And it helped tremendously to take away the pain. And I became fascinated enough by it that I started looking into it more. I realized that I have a license to touch because of my dental hygiene license, and I know a lot about head and neck anatomy, and so
Again,
I thought
because
I'm
your
going
background,
to
sure.
because of my background, and I thought, well, I'll take the class and I'll see what it's like. So I took the first class, and again, I was fascinated by it and continued on to take the number of classes needed to become a therapist. And I would use it on my patients, particularly those who had chronic headaches from clenching and grinding, or that had issues with their temporomandibular joint that was creating problems for them. Sometimes kids with braces, because braces can cause a lot of tension as they are doing what they need to do. And so I was practicing it mostly with my patients. My boss was excellent about letting me do that, and I then started doing it on friends and family. Well, once I retired, which was 3 years ago, Thank you, Dental Hygiene, for all that you did. And I love all my patients and miss them tremendously. But I started actually doing it at home with clients who wanted to come to the house, which was made a little bit easier by the fact that my husband David was a nurse neuromuscular therapist and had
Yes.
established a practice at home. We have a lovely space we call the studio.
It is beautiful.
It is a beautiful space, and it's primarily for healing. And so craniosacral therapy is very gentle. The patient doesn't have to disrobe. They lay on the table. The touch is like about the weight of a nickel.
Yeah, that's what it said. Yeah.
And that's meant to be able to create just enough force to move the fascia, which the fascia is how to describe fascia. You get the chicken breast that still got the skin on it, and you peel back the skin, and right under the skin is this thin white, sort of gel-like layer.
Yes.
That's the fascia.
Oh, okay.
The fascia surrounds the muscles, the organs, the body, and muscle, because it also moves through the muscles, it can actually, if you have a muscle spasm, then that tightens up around that and it holds the spasm in place, if you will. And so what craniosacral does is, because of this very light touch, we can actually affect that fascia. We say craniosacral because we're talking about the membrane that surrounds the brain and also that surrounds the spinal cord, that's called the dural tube. It is filled with cerebrospinal fluid, which is pumped through from the brain to the tailbone and back, right, or to the end of the spine, to the sacrum. And this tube is also affected by, it has its own fascia, and it also is connected to all of the nerves. The fascia has nerve innervation, which means that it goes through the fascia as well. So it's proprioceptive, right?
Yes.
It gives you a sense of feel. And what we can do is we can help balance that flow, which should be moving. It should be moving,
Yeah.
right? But if you have a restriction, maybe it clenches up in one spot. And so if we're able to very gently facilitate a release of that fascia to a more relaxed state, then everything is going to flow better. The nerve system is going to be able to relax. The brain is going to be able to relax too, because when we get into stressful situations, cortisol starts flowing into our bodies, and it causes even more tension and more stress.
Right.
So it's very, very relaxing. I have had people tell me that many people just drift off. Some people tell me they feel like they're floating above the table. Some people actually have, that sort of experience that happens with going into a trance where you see colors or lights or visions, whatever. And I don't mean that to sound like woo woo. I mean, when we go into a liminal state, which if we can be that relaxed, our brainwaves slow down and we do go into kind of like a dream state. So who knows what you might see, hear, or experience in those states. So I'm, not to make it sound like I've just gone off into, my crystal chakra land, which has its value, but
right. But this is actual science.
This is
And
developed.
physical therapists do it, and you have to have a license to touch to practice it. So
Correct.
not just anybody can go, hey, I do craniosacral therapy in
Correct.
my house,
You
and then you
need-
go see them. You need to see someone like Patti, who is
Who
qualified.
has a massage therapist, a PT, even myself, a dental hygienist. If you have a license to touch, then you have that.
like the foundation.
That basis, that foundation to do that. I've done a little bit in the last 8 or 9 months, not a lot, but I also lead meditation. So I've had meditations there in the studio, and I post those. If you follow me on Facebook at all, or you
Yep.
find me, you can find when I'm going to have meditations, and I do that by donation because I don't have to leave my home.
Yeah. How nice. Yeah. Yeah. I would
So
definitely love to join you for one of those. And I'll definitely, those of you watching on Facebook or YouTube, that'll all be linked up in the show notes. And we'll put links to make sure that you
great.
know how to find Patty and, be able to connect with you on those things.
So you had some questions, and I know that I wanted to address a couple of other things about craniosacral. So
Yeah.
why don't you
so,
hit me?
So I guess I was interested in knowing, because I see here, it looks like there's a lot of things that this therapy can help, not only physical ailments, but some mental things, especially Alzheimer's, autism, dementia, learning disabilities, those types of things. I guess my biggest question, knowing some people in my life that are affected by autism, I work very closely with the Northwest Indiana Parkinson's Association. So, what are, how does that work, if you will? Like, what's the connection between those?
Well, okay. So I can speak from my own experience. I happen to have the opportunity to work with a young man with Tourette's. And if you know anything about Tourette's, it's a series of tics that can manifest in a lot of different ways. It can sometimes be outbursts of speech, or it can be physical tics, and they can be very disruptive for people who with this condition. And in my experience with working with him, it relaxed him, it relaxed his brain enough that when he would leave the session, his tics would be like either gone or significantly reduced for sometimes as much as like a day, 24 hours or so. And it was a really soothing experience for the brain,
Right.
to be able to have this profound state of relaxation. There's something that we do at the end of every session. It's called a still point. And basically what we're doing, and we use our hands, or we can use the shoulders or the feet, and because there is this pumping that happens in the cerebrospinal fluid, we want to like slow that down enough so that it actually comes to a point of rest. This is the rhythm of it is different from respiration and from circulation.
Okay.
So it's closely related in terms of how often it's cycling to respiration. If you're breathing somewhere between 6 to 12 times in a minute, the rhythms can be somewhere in that neighborhood, but it's separate from it. So we want to slow that rhythm down as slow as we can get that, to what they call a still point. And in that, we are allowing the system as complete a rest as we can. Then when we take that gentle pressure off of slowing that system down, usually what will happen is a huge opening where the pump of that cerebrospinal fluid becomes much larger and much more relaxed. So in that way, it does give the brain rest. It gives the entire nervous system a chance to rest in a way that is beneficial to conditions like Tourette's or autism or Parkinson's.
Right.
I have not had any experience with Parkinson's or with Alzheimer's patients at all.
Sure.
But I certainly have other friends who are craniosacral therapists who have gone on to do a lot of work, particularly with children, with infants,
Wow.
and children who have conditions like autism.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because kids, it's a lot easier to get kids just to kind of sit still, and the very light touch would probably be very gentle on a child or an infant, or as opposed to, maybe some different type of meditation techniques or massage or other
therapies,
things,
right?
Or
Yeah.
therapies, right? Exactly.
Right.
Oh,
So
wow.
it
How
allows
beautiful.
a reset, if you will, of the central nervous system.
Wow. Incredible.
So, and then because trauma can get stored in the body, and this was one of the points that I wanted to make.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, a perfect example. People go, trauma in the body? What are you talking about? I don't know. No. I can use dentistry, pardon me, I can use dentistry as a perfect example. Say you're a kid and you get hit in the mouth with a baseball, right?
See that a lot.
Right,
Yes.
right there.
Such a common injury.
Right, exactly. Sometimes the tooth is avulsed, meaning the tooth comes out, the tooth gets put back in, or it gets broken, or whatever. Or maybe nothing actually happens. You just kind of get popped, and the tooth seems to be perfectly fine. Maybe you were 6 when this happened. Now you're 36, and you come in and you go, I'm having pain here. And we take an x-ray, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And all of a sudden there's an abscess. And if the tooth is completely without any kind of restoration,
Right.
what's the first question you ask? Did you ever have an injury here?
Yep.
Because the body remembers those traumas. And so one of the things that craniosacral can do is we talk about it in craniosacral in terms of, they call it an energy cyst. We are energetic beings. Our systems are electrical. They can actually measure the electrical impulses that come off the body. So, again, if you're thinking, where did she just go?
Right.
So an energy cyst, the body remembers these injuries. It may or may not create problems for you down the road. If it does, then you have to go, oh, how is it that my sacrum hurts? Oh, yeah, there was that one time that I fell. Or something like that. So the body's remembering that. So in craniosacral, one of the things we can do is we can facilitate, we can offer the body and the patient a way to release some of the tensions that have developed in the tissues around that.
Wow.
And both from an energetic standpoint, but also from an emotional standpoint, because sometimes people will actually have an emotional release when they get touched. And, maybe maybe it's a shoulder injury, and you get touched on the shoulder, and suddenly you find yourself weeping, and you don't know why. It's like, why would I cry over my shoulder? But it's because there was not just the injury, but there was the emotional component that came into that. My husband's experience was very much that. Patients, he would get a new patient, and they'd leave. I'd see him go. He'd come in the house. I'd say, "How'd that go?" He went, "It was a good one. Lots of tears." Which used to scare him when he first started doing it, because people would get on the table and they'd go, "I don't know why I'm crying." It's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have to know. Maybe it doesn't matter why you're crying. It's just that there was something in there. Here's an opportunity for you to let that go. You don't even have to know what it is. Just go ahead.
Right.
Go with the flow.
Yeah.
And if it's flowing out of you, then allow it to flow out of you.
It's even more beautiful, not having to experience that hurt again, but just being able to let it go without even addressing it or it coming up for you.
Right.
Consciously.
You don't have to go, oh, now I have to go see my therapist.
Right.
Sometimes you might want to, but, you don't have to. So traumatic injuries that can lead to emotional releases in craniosacral are sometimes feeling supported and safe. Let's say the injury was to my shoulder, and I, as the therapist, feel there's a restriction there. I'm working on that restriction by gently creating a counter pressure to the direction. If it wants to pull this direction, I want to pull it back in this direction, give it an opportunity to release that fascia. And maybe it brings up this component of the body needing to go back into the position it was in when the injury happened. So if I'm supporting that, the limb may begin to just move.
Yeah.
And it's a spontaneous sort of thing. And then sometimes that can actually lead to an emotional release where people will cry, or sometimes, have vibrations happen, shaking, which I don't mean that to scare you. I've had very few of those, really.
Yeah. With like an anxiety type of reaction.
Yeah. Or just the, you find yourself shocked that you're in this state. So then sometimes we will guard.
It's interesting that you say that, because that is me. I've always had trouble with anything that alters my mental state, if that makes sense.
Oh
So,
yeah.
I mean, to in a good way, it's probably kept me from doing certain type of drugs. And I mean, honestly,
It's
I've
made help you make healthier
very healthier
choices.
choices in my life. And and I remember back when I worked at a different dental office from Dr. Torrey's, and we got nitric oxide or nitrous for the first time, and they wanted all of us to try it, just so we would know
Been there.
what our patients were going through. And so I laid down, and they started to give me the nitrous, and I freaked out because I wasn't ready or comfortable with the physiological or the mental things that were happening to me, and it didn't. Maybe it's my want to just control everything, and that I'm working on that. But but so that was sort of my thought. When you're talking about having this experience of being in that flow, and some people feel like they're floating. And so, what would be your advice, I guess, to someone like me when I go through experiences like that, just to be able to let go of that fear a little bit? I mean, is there anything I could do to?
Breathing.
Yeah.
And breathing is something that I use in meditation. I did it with my patients all the time. It's like, I remind them, because when we are stressed, whether we're aware of it or not, one of the first things we do is we hold our breath. And so if we can bring our attention back to our breathing, then we can slow down, we can let the system relax, we can give our own massage to our central nervous system by focusing on the breathing and allowing that breathing to deepen and slow down the system. It lowers blood pressure. It lowers tension in the body. I mean, there's just so many things that breathing, which doesn't cost you anything, right? But your attention.
Yes.
So in those moments, and I had a similar experience when I was first in dentistry, of them introducing me to nitrous, and I'm like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
I am afraid of what might come out of my mouth. I'm going to be in trouble. I just know I am.
Well, it's like you instantly had 8 drinks, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Now you're
Whoa! They don't call it laughing gas for nothing.
right.
But
Definitely alters your mental state.
it does.
Almost immediately.
Oh, yeah.
And then the recovery from it is very immediate as well, right?
Yeah.
Because then they give you oxygen, you come right out of it. So it's I don't know. I mean, I know it's there to relax people, but for someone like me, probably would not work.
Yeah,
in
it
that
depends
way.
on the person, the personality, what our issues are. But then, as my husband used to say, the issues are in the tissues. So if we can let the tissues relax,
Issues are in the
then
tissues.
the
I
issues
like
are in the
that.
tissues, which is another one of those ways of saying your trauma gets stored in your body.
Yes.
Think about fight and flight and the kinds of responses. Fight, flight, freeze. Those are the ways that we respond to things. We're either gonna, automatically look at how tense the body gets, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm running the hell away.
Yeah.
Or I'm
Yes.
frozen. I can't move.
Right.
And all of those are a trauma to the body. So
Right.
in the end, what happens to our breathing? It gets rapid. And it starts pumping hormones into the body that
Right.
are meant to protect us.
And
It-
that's all based on our heredity,
physiology
from
is
being hunters and gatherers and having to run from the lion or hunt the food or
Right.
move from danger. And so, those are good things. So,
Absolutely.
I guess I remember Linda Rosenthal. Some people know her.
I know Linda.
She had described that when I get anxiety and my heart starts pumping, to address that and thank God or the universe for that. Thank God for the ability for blood to pump through my veins and to run from danger if that is the case, and just to be aware of the gifts that we're given to sort of deal with different situations, and not to be afraid of those reactions, but to own them and
Right.
deal with them as they come
Well,
up.
and to be present with something. So, say a really traumatic experience comes up for you, And you have all of this adrenaline moving through the body. The muscles are tense. The mind is a little bit frayed. And when we have the opportunity to actually slow down and process that, and we may notice feelings coming up, once again, our breathing can come back and be a help for us in those moments. Because as the feelings come up, if we are willing to breathe with our body and stay present with our breath, we can allow the feeling to arise, the thought that goes with the feeling, and allow it to pass. And that's so you ask about meditation. When I lead meditation, I lead guided meditation. I'm not like the Zen master who's going to make you sit there in silence and come by and whack you on the head if your posture isn't right. I want you to have an experience of being guided through the meditation so that you understand what happens to you physiologically and mentally when you are able to bring your attention. So, excuse me. In those moments, if you are able to breathe, stay present with what you're feeling, just like in meditation, thoughts will arise, thoughts will pass. Thoughts will arise, thoughts will pass. Think of them as clouds passing. Think of them as shadow and light that moves through. So if I'm feeling a lot of anxiety and I actually slow my breathing, find a way to make my my presence match up with what's going on around me, then I can feel what I'm feeling, stay present with it, breathe through it, and then it's gone. It may come up again. It will probably come up again, and that's okay. Yeah, and I can definitely speak to this because of my own grief experience. And my husband passed, it'll be 9 months ago this coming weekend.
Oh, wow.
And I know, it's the blink of an eye, and it's just yesterday. So a lot of things just arise for me. And I have, of course, I write because that helps me to process it. But also, when it is at its worst, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's very painful. But if I stay with my breathing and just stay with the feeling and don't try to push it away, explain it away, or anything else, if I just stay with it, it's going to go. It's going to pass. It'll come back. And it'll come back either sometimes with the same intensity because, these kinds of experiences have so many different components to them. But as time goes, the waves, so they say, go farther apart. They're not, you don't get knocked down quite as often or quite as hard. So staying present with it is one of those things with meditation, whatever it be. Maybe it's a stress about your family, maybe it's stress about your job, maybe it's stress about a relationship, maybe it's stress about health. If you are able to stay present with that, breathe through that, you'll be much more focused and able to moving forward to take a positive action that's going to help you resolve the situation.
Wow. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're making me just want to schedule with you and let's get this rolling because I feel like I have all of these things that you're talking about. So, Patti, let's take another little quick break. We'll hear from a couple more sponsors. And then when we come back, again, talking about your sound immersion and all of that.
I'm excited about
that's
that.
really cool. And again, something that I'm not super familiar about. So I'd love to hear more about that. And
excellent.
Let us know if you have questions, guys, if you're on Facebook with us or anything like that. All right, we'll be back.
See, you get me talking and you never know.
Talking and honking.
Since 1964, Springer Realty has been helping homeowners save thousands when buying or selling their home. Springer Realty is locally owned, provides full service start to finish, and will handle all the paperwork and details. Why pay those high commissions in a seller's market when one phone call can literally save you thousands? Visit us at SpringerSellsHomes.com or call 219-838-0180. Springer Realty.
Have you played today? Playful activity can be anything from taking a walk to your favorite neighborhood deli to picking up a game of soccer with your friends. But most importantly, bringing a playful mindset to everyday life can elevate your mood, increase your energy, and your thirst for life. I'm Crystal, the Playful Trainer. I'm a health, life, and fitness coach. It's my passion to help you find playful ways to get you active, achieve your health goals, and live a more fulfilling life. My new book, The Playful Journal, has been featured on the Make My Day podcast, TuneIn radio show, and in the Northwest Indiana Times. I'm available for individual, group, and online coaching, or I'd love to speak at your next event. You can find me at theplayfultrainer.com or on Facebook or Instagram. Stay playful.
I find my way in the dark like a blind man, reaching out for you. And I've lost my way so many times that I no longer know what's true. But in the silence, before the flight of birds, you are there. And when I least expect it, you are there. How many nights have I lain alone, waiting for your touch, hoping for a sign that you love me? Or is that asking too much? But in the starless night sky, you are there. And in the light before the dawn, you are there. I find my way in the dark like a blind man, reaching out for you. I've lost my way so many times that I no longer know what's true. But in the starless night sky, you are there. And in the light before the dawn, you are there. And in the silence before the flight of birds, you are there. And when I least expect it, you are there.
All right. Wow. So, for those of you who are listening to this, that was Patti,
Yeah.
an original song of hers called "You Are There."
Yep.
Wow, that was beautiful,
Thank
beautiful. You're the control of your voice and the the chord structure, everything was just really,
Thank you. And
really
it's,
beautiful.
it's a simple chord structure. It really wasn't very complex, but, it's amazing when you throw the other instruments. There was a South African kora, which looks like a big gourd with a little harp and two handles, played by Chris Marolf on that. And my husband David Cowan was playing the hung drum, and I believe somewhere in there was cello.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah, who was a woman from Canada, actually, who was the cellist on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And it was recorded and mixed in Valparaiso.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
So is that kind of the structure for a lot of your recordings or songs? Do you have guest artists on different things and
I
throughout
didn't
an album?
used to. When I first started playing my first album, it was just pretty much me and guitar. My husband playing a couple bass things on it, and was playing flute, and then a guy by the name of Stan Leslie, who's from the South Bend area, who was playing harmonica for me. And but that was just, it was very bare bones kind of thing. And I've actually just recently recorded and gone back to a very bare bones kind of thing. But when I was creating this particular album, which was really an EP, it's 8 songs, I was using a lot of different instruments, harmonica, bass, the kora, percussion, a lot of different, some keyboard elements that were brought in to be able to create the music that way. And I honestly don't know. I mean, it's wonderful to have collaborative experiences with other artists, and yet if I am just about being expressive, me and my guitar, I can't really beat that, or just a cappella, which is one of the things about the improv singing that's so fascinating, because I am the instrument, right? Which, bringing instruments into it, and you were wanting to talk about the sound immersion.
Yes, so the great segue.
Yeah, especially because this particular song is probably the one meditative kind of song that I have created. So my husband became fascinated with gongs. We had gone to an experience that's called a gong bath.
Yes.
And
Shanti Wellness just had one of those a couple of weeks ago.
And technically, gong bath is a trademarked name by Richard Rudis. And you're not supposed to say gong bath.
gong shower?
Immersion, sound bath. You could say sound bath, but technically, according to Richard, you're not supposed to say that. So we had this experience with these gongs, and David's always been a percussion person, so he became fascinated with these gongs. And he found a place called Gongs Unlimited, believe it or not, exists. And they're funny people, you know. Have you gonged today?
Oh, boy.
You know. You gonged today. Gongs are your friend. You know, they had funny little bumper stickers.
Yeah,
and
they
that.
branded that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he got a small gong, and he liked it. And he started using it when he was doing massage. And then he got a little bit bigger one. And then finally he ordered the Mother Tesla drum, or not drum, gong, which is like, I think it's 40 inches, and it's what they call a dark star gong. So instead of being nice and shiny, you know how you've seen the Chinese gongs that have like a dark band and then a golden or brass band and then another dark band, or maybe there's a dark center.
Okay.
That dark finish is part of the process. It changes the sound of the gong. Oh, wow. So he got this huge gong, which I cannot pick up. I cannot. I can pick up my gong, which is the chow gong, but I can't, subatomic gong, but I cannot pick up the 40-inch Mother Tesla gong. And he had it engraved with the sign, the symbol for Qi, because he also taught Qigong. And
that's cool. Yeah.
And so he had that on the gong, and so he began some local studios after some people had come to the house and had this experience of having David go, and they feel it vibrate through their body, and they're like, that is so cool. Could you come and do that for us? And he started doing it at yoga studios.
Okay.
And then, you know, he took our friend Jason Canola, who decided he liked this whole experience, so he got some gongs. So it's like a gong party.
Oh, man.
Right? And you start learning how to play these gongs and how to create different sounds with them and how they vibrate through the body. We are wired for sound. You know, in utero, we are wired for sound. Our experience with vibration, and I have a son who's deaf, but the experience with vibration,
really?
he can. Oh yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
My younger son is deaf, and so even when he was a kid, he used to put his foot on my guitar. He couldn't hear me sing. He couldn't hear my voice, but he could feel the vibrations coming through my guitar, or he could put his hand on my throat and feel the vibrations. Yeah. So a gong is something, or a drum is something that he can feel, right? Yeah. There are actually deaf drummers.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So you start to learn how to play these things, and we started doing these experiences for people. Vibrations in Miller had David and Jason and I come, set up in 3 different rooms with our gongs, and the 3 of us are gonging people laying on the floor. You lay on the floor and in a nice, comfortable position. The gongs are played, and there are different levels of playing it as far as volume and intensity. There's something that's called a splash, and the splash, if you've ever heard the cymbals in a band where the guy hits the cymbal and he goes, so that experience, it can be either very jarring or it can actually be very enervating. And mostly what people experience is innervation. They experience a kind of excitement in their own molecules, if you will. We're shifting those molecules around. So it can, much like craniosacral, it can put you into different states of you can be in a theta state, you can be in a beta state, you can be in a delta state, and you can go into this while this vibration is going through the body. Add to that singing bowls, voice. David used to add harp and bells, and he had a flute that it was based on, and I know it has a name, but I can't remember what it's called. He made one out of PVC pipe. and it sounds very ethereal.
That's cool.
It's very
Yeah.
cool. And I'm not very good at playing it, not like he was, but or didgeridoo.
Sure.
He would play. He was the only person I ever met that could seriously circular breathe and keep the sound going. You hear the didgeridoo and the guys are just
Right.
and they're going the whole time. And you go, how do they do that? Don't they ever take a breath? Yeah, they are, but they're doing something called circular breathing, so they're breathing out at the same time that they're breathing in.
Neat. I feel like I know people that talk really fast and a lot, and I'm like, I bet they know how to circular breathe because they're never taking a breath. They're just talking at me. Right. I'm sure you all know someone like that.
Sometimes it's been me in the last 9 months. I just go, I'm sorry, I've talked a lot today. I said that to one of my friends not too long ago, and she said, Patty, you've always talked a lot. Oh.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a good quality to have.
All right. Well, I'm an actress. What can I say? Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm an actress, too.
Yes, add that to the resume.
So the sound immersion, there's all kinds of claims that are made, and I take everything with a grain of salt. If I come out of an experience like that and I feel either calmer or I feel energized or I feel as though I've let go of tension in my body or tension in my mind, that's a win-win for me.
Absolutely.
So I did we have some good friends in Milwaukee who have a healing collective up there, and Jason and I went up and did one in January, and we're going back in March and doing another one and doing private sessions where people can lay on massage tables with their heads facing the gongs. So we'll have the four gongs, and the gongs will be set up so that their heads are to the gongs and very close, so that they can have that experience of being closer to it. Because when I play it, the vibrations that are coming through my body are much more intense than what they are if you are a little bit farther away. Not that they don't have the same experience, as far as being able to change, to move your molecules around, but I'm actually playing it, so I have contact with it in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's that and voice are the two things that I find they activate the vagus nerve in the system, which is so connected to our organ health, right? On so many levels. And like I said, it can either bring you into, like, if you need to be energized, you can walk away feeling energized, or if you need to really be relaxed, you can end up feeling really relaxed.
Yeah.
And David was ever so much better than this than I am, but I can do it overtoning with the voice.
Oh.
I don't know how can I try this and see how it
yes,
translates?
Please do.
So there's a couple of ways when I teach workshops on voice to get overtones, which means that I have like a drone tone. But over that or under that, depending on your vocal quality and your ability to wrap your mouth around the sounds, you can get a chord, you can get another note or harmonics that happen on top of that. So
I've talked about this with my husband Mark.
Did you really? So one of them is to say either rear or near. So you at least hear two notes, right? Or the other one is a and you get a couple of different notes.
I have headphones on, so this might be
a more closed experience.
But I feel like I can feel, or at least my eardrums can feel the difference in the vibrations of those two notes coming together, where they come together and where they go apart.
Where the harmonics meet and where they bounce off of one another. And so this is even just humming Move your tongue around in your mouth, to the roof of your mouth, to the back of your mouth, widen it, play with it. Play. We're about play,
Yep.
right? So if you hum, can you hear the different tones?
Yes.
All right, so all those different tones are just how I'm changing the position of my tongue in my mouth. Humming to yourself, finding a note that feels comfortable. Man, you can heal yourself. Heal yourself, I tell you. Heal, be healed. Hum for yourself. And if you want to amplify the experience, if you like taking a bath, you get in the bathtub, you get the water so that it just comes up to like right about here when you lay down, and you start humming or singing into just sing. And
actually
the
done this.
vibrations come through the water into your body, and you may go, oh, that note feels, ugh, I don't like that note. Try a different note. Experiment with it until you find one that goes, oh, yeah, that feels real hummy in me. That feels relaxing.
Neat.
And so you
I
can...
haven't done it with specific notes, but I've done it more where like I have music playing
Yeah.
and I just sing along.
Right?
You
It's
know,
the same kind of thing, but try just humming into it and say, okay, I'm going to find out can I feel that one in my stomach? Can I feel that one in my heart? Can I feel that one in my toes? Can I feel that one in my neck? And try these different notes. And I would lay there. I haven't done it for a while. I probably ought to, now that I think about it, and just find the note that feels best in my body that day.
Yeah.
Rhiannon, when I was doing training with her, would say, what's your song for the day? Whatever it is,
Cool.
Create a little song.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I like that. So here's a question for someone who hasn't really ever been experienced with gongs. So does the gong, like the physics of it, do you get different notes or tones out of the same gong depending on where you hit it on the gong, or are they tuned a certain way and that's based on the size and the shape and the angles?
Well,
or
there is that quality to it. So if I just strike it, and there are different mallets that you can use. The different mallets can sometimes get a different sound too. So a mallet that is wrapped very hard, and they're cloth usually, not always, but cloth. So you strike the gong with a harder mallet, and you're going to get more of the home tone or the home note of that gong. Is it? If I hit it with a softer mallet, something that's like got sheepskin or has a fuzzier quality to it, I'll still get that home tone, but the sound will feel a little softer, and it's not quite so harsh. There are mallets that we all remember super balls. Do you remember super balls? Those little hard balls that you would bounce on the floor and it would go
sure.
bing, 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 bing.
Those are real popular at the dental office with the kids.
Right, exactly. And the mothers are like, did you really just give my child that? Great, thank you. Okay, couldn't you give them something else? So then you give them sticky hands and that, then they're like,
those little
oh
sticky,
no, not the sticky hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
The tattoos are always the best. The
Tattoos are good.
Stick-on tattoos, those are my
Because
favorite.
those don't make noise, and
Right.
the parents don't hate you at the end of the experience. So it's like, please don't give my child something like that again.
Right.
Or we used to have the little clappy hands.
Oh, yes.
No! You could just see the parents glaze over. But so the little super balls, and they're put on a mallet, flexible mallet. And when you run those across the gong, like you get like a whale sound sometimes, or you can get something that sounds, what was it that David said about the one? Sort of like a howl.
Oh, yeah.
But, howling is good. You ought to be able to howl once in a while. And so people don't realize that you're playing with these little mallets. They're like, oh, I heard whales. Yes, you did. They were singing right through the gong. So yes, if there's different areas that you get different sounds. The force with which, if you want to get that splash, which feels like a wash, whoosh, shimmer through the gong, depending on how hard you hit it, and like the center of a gong will have a one sort of a tone again, like like what I just did with my voice, there's a drone tone, there's a home tone, and then there are all of these other harmonic tones that come depending upon where you play the gong and how you play the gong.
Cool.
Smaller mallet, bigger mallet, soft, hard.
Neat.
Yeah.
That must be a nice hobby too. Or I mean, now it's not a hobby for you. This is part of what you do, but for somebody out there just experiencing it, maybe just go buy a gong and just hit
Gongs
it.
Unlimited.
And, Gongs
Hang out
Unlimited.
with those people.
And that could be your playful thing that you do for the day, right? Just sit there
Right.
and experiment with your gong and get different tones out of it, and that could be really cool.
or go buy yourself a singing bowl.
Oh.
You can find those just about everywhere
Yeah?
now. I mean, health food stores even.
Wow.
I've walked into a couple health food stores where they've had little bowls,
Cool.
or your local yoga studio, or one of those places, and the bowls are fun, even if you just strike them.
Yeah.
And
That idea of imperfection, and doesn't have to be something, just has to be whatever you make it.
Right. There's a concept in Japan that is, if a piece of pottery gets broken, you put it back together. You use this gold to put it back together, and the bowl becomes more beautiful because of the gold and its imperfection. It's called kintsugi. And I actually have a kintsugi ring on that's made of iron and gold.
Very cool.
Yeah. Well, it's like, how do you heal something?
Yes, what a metaphor for life.
And to heal the pieces back together and recognize that the imperfections, those things that have happened in our lives, that you feel so broken over, as you begin to pick up the pieces, if you put those back together with the gold of love and living, then wow. Then all of that stuff makes you who you are, right?
Yeah.
All of the experiences that you've had, all of the experiences that all of you have had, make you who you are today. And if you see yourself as healed with the gold of love, then where's the imperfection? It's all the more beautiful for that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much, Patty.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been so wonderful.
I'm having a good time.
Yeah,
Well, you
this
get me
is
talking.
great, right? Yeah, we have wow. This is probably the longest podcast we've done, but that's okay. There's no time limit. That's the beauty about podcasts, right? It's whatever we want it to be.
I was wondering. I was like, well, gosh, am I talking too much?
No, never. And I'm so glad we got to play a song of yours.
Me too.
I would love for you to tell our audience, where do we find you? How can we find you? Your music, your therapies, everything.
Well, if you just go to Facebook, you can find me, Patti. Well, I'm sure it's on the somewhere on that.
Yes, we'll link that up for you.
Patti, Shaffner, no C, and you can find me on Facebook there. I have a music page. I have a Wisecracks blog, which is blogging my grief experience, because writing is healthy for you. Write it down, even if nobody else sees it. Write it down. It's good for you. I have a website, and that is JAZZDAKINI.com. Jazz Dakini, not Bikini, Zucchini, or anything like that. It's Jazz Dakini. And if you're asking what the heck is a dakini, it's a Tibetan female icon. They're called sky dancers, and they are the ones that help clear away illusion. But the root of the word dakini, dak, means to beckon with sound. So when I was creating my email address, I went, that's right, I'm a dakini.
That's beautiful.
So
that's
I'm a
also your
jazz
Instagram,
dakini.
by the way.
That's true. Jazz Dakini and Drawing Inward Arts are both of my Instagram connections. And so I post my art there. So you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me at my website. My website has links to Zentangle, improv, singing. It also has links to my music, where you can purchase my music, listen to my music, iTunes, that sort of thing. And yeah, even though I get I think it's maybe 0.07 cents per play on Spotify, I just went, if I ever get to a point where I'm popular enough that I'm going to make some money from Spotify, well, we'll think about it. But like I said earlier, it's just local, regional is fine with me.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
It's just there to share with the world, and that's okay.
You do it because you love it.
Yeah, exactly.
And many musicians will tell you we're probably being paid the same that we were 30 years ago, and or less in some cases.
Wow, that's a conversation for a whole other
Yeah,
podcast.
it sure is. It
To
sure
get into
is.
that. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Crystal, for having
for
me
being
on.
here. And again, I've told you I'm sure you felt it watching us today or listening to Patti speak, but she just really has a light in her soul, and I'm so honored that she came on the show to share that with us. And as always, thank you to Ron Harlow for letting
Thanks,
us
Ron.
host this in his living room. And to my newest sponsor, Class UFC, Gym in Munster, where I teach and coach classes. So we would love to see you there. Again, I'm the Playful Trainer. You can find me on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so that you see other podcasts, videos, trainings, all good things coming your way. Also, you can find me on Instagram at The Playful Trainer, on Facebook at The Playful Trainer, or at theplayfultrainer.com. So, with all that being said, have a gorgeous and beautiful and playful day. Stay playful as always. And thanks again to Patti. And we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye for now.